Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Doing well. Do you have your camera on? It's loading right now.
It may be getting gobbled up by my screen,
Possibly.
by my stream. But wait 1 second. Would you need it?
No, no.
Okay, no problem. Do you have yours?
Yes.
All right. Oh, is it on? Oh,
There you go.
beautiful, amazing. All right, let me show chat. There we go. All right. Well, hello, buddy. How are you doing?
Hi, how you doing? I'm doing well. My camera's been acting up today, so if
Mhm.
there's anything, if it starts flickering or anything, I'll make sure to beat it into a pulp, and then it'll start working.
No problem, no problem. We all have
Yeah,
technical
exactly.
difficulties in these difficult times in these
Exactly.
100%. So we haven't spoken for a while. I think last
Yeah.
time we talked, you were just some average normal guy going about his life, tending to his guinea pigs,
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
games, talking about politics and everything. But now you've taken your interest in politics to a whole nother level, and you're now running for your city council. You're running for the city council
Yeah.
at large seat of Randolph, Massachusetts. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Amazing. Can you tell
So
us a little? Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you decided to run, and what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Andrew. Andrew Pemberton. I also go by online as Pickle Lime. You may have seen me in Sharks chats at some times. Um, I do political organizing. I also make content, but on the political organizing side of things, I work with Progressive Victory. You may have heard of Progressive Victory. I'm the Massachusetts state lead for Progressive Victory. I'm also the Northeast Coalition lead. Basically, I manage a lot of the volunteers in PV, and then I also help new leaders that come into BV and help them manage their teams and kind of mentor them to make their first steps and everything. So that's what I do basically day to day. It takes up a lot of time, especially now doing that at the same time as running my own campaign, um, working with multiple other campaigns. So it takes up a lot of time now, but uh, yeah, in Randolph is a suburb south of Boston. It's quite a diverse town. It might be the most diverse town in Massachusetts. It's at least one of the most diverse. I believe we were actually um, the only town in the state to qualify for Vietnamese voting ballots for the next 10 years. So we have very strong Haitian community, very strong Vietnamese community. It's a very diverse town that has some unique problems and some so not unique problems that are very prevalent in a lot of suburbs in the country.
Yeah, one hundred
And that's why
percent.
I'm running.
Yeah, great. Um, so I thought it was really interesting because I think a lot of people who think about
Mm-hmm.
running for to be politicians, they have some background in political organization. And how did you get into political organizing? What made you feel like that was something that you wanted to do? Uh, and and what have you gotten done in that area?
Yeah, so I I got involved in politics at a pretty young age, probably like 12, 13. And then I'm 20 now. But yeah, I got involved in politics. I probably started volunteering, really, I think when Bernie announced his presidential run in 2019. Running in 2020, but announced his run in 2019. That's when I started. I volunteered for the Bernie campaign, and then I also volunteered for a bunch of other like local candidates, statewide candidates. Ed Markey, I helped him like set up for like events and did phone banking for him, and a bunch of other candidates as well. So yeah, that's how it really started. And then once I heard of PV, because before then I was just being doing volunteer work. I heard of PV from Vosh. I joined PV, and then within like a month, I become the Massachusetts state lead just because of how active I was. Um, I didn't even ask. There was other people that suggested me. I had no interest in being state lead, but I was made state lead after they had come to me, and I think I've done really well. We've been one of the best performing state teams in the organization. We have run at a capacity that most of the other state teams don't. In fact, I set up my team to be very structured and organized, and now PV. I've heard people higher up in PV as a whole trying to make that the standard for new state teams. So we've been one of the best performing state teams, and then because of that, I was promoted to Northeast Coalition lead. So Massachusetts State Lead and Northeast Coalition Lead at the same time. And now I help mentor new state leads that come in and help them set up their states and help them set up their organizing, give them advice, everything like that. And then I also have a say in regards to federal planning for the org. But yeah, that's how I started. But if there's anyone else that wants to get into organizing, whether you're young or it doesn't matter. It's never too late or too early. If you want to get into organizing, first understanding understanding what's going on in your local area, and also I guess what's going on in the area that you want to advocate in, whether it's a campaign for a state position or federal or local. Making sure you understand what's going on, what the plights of common people are, and understanding what certain policies are being pushed and what they mean. That's very important to do your research first, because there are many people that come in well-meaning, but maybe shut down or become pessimistic from bad experiences with voters, because maybe they're not able to answer certain questions or they don't have access to certain information. So if you're going to go phone banking, canvassing, text banking, whatever, making sure you're well researched and you know what you're talking about. And then if you want to get into the actual organizing side of things, like managing volunteers or being in positions in orgs, it's just ask. I mean, reach out to orgs, see if they have any positions available paid. If there's not, look at volunteer positions. All my positions at PV are volunteer positions. Just searching for work like that. It's not as hard as it may seem, because a lot of these organizations are struggling. A lot of the political organizations out there are struggling to find people, especially young people. And they will be on their hands and knees whenever if there's a young person that walks in and wants to do volunteer work. That would be absolutely incredible for them. But yeah, it's not that hard, especially if you don't even if you have never gone to college or anything. I haven't gone to college. It's actually quite easy to get into political work, even if you just have a high school degree. And I've never gone to college. It's not. A lot of these positions, at least especially entry level, don't require degrees. And then even ones on a higher level, if you're trying to build a career or anything out of it, a lot of them just require political experience, not necessarily degrees.
Yes, sorry, a little muted. So, yeah, pretty interesting. It seems like you have a lot of experience. You've been going on for almost. Yep. You've been doing this for almost 10 years now, a full decade, and you've only lived for 2, so that's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
That's super nice. It's but I would imagine that the type of leadership position that you have, moving from Massachusetts Coalition League to all of the Northeast Coalition League, was pretty daunting. But it seems like you've taken that leadership position at least somewhat well, since now they're saying that they want to model their work after yours, right? So that's truly incredible. What other advice do you think that you can give to people who may be looking to get into politics? They may have seen some videos, or they have some ideas, or they look at the world and they want to change it. I would imagine that you believe that working on a local level is a great way to start to change things, since a lot of people can imagine that even though we're really focused on the federal level these days, more likely than not, the things that make your life better or worse are going to be done on a local level, whether that be your state, county, or even city. So how do you think that your average person can really get into making a change in their area? I know you mentioned already figuring out what your area's problems are, figuring out what seat you're running for, figuring out what people are kind of like yearning for, and I would imagine you would also say what problems that the leadership at the moment are not addressing. What else do you think that would be? How did you find your niche when it comes to politics and how you can make people's lives better?
Yeah, so it depends on whether they're looking into more electoral work or if they're looking in more into like being involved in their government, whether it doesn't have to be an elected position. If you're looking for more electoral work, we live in a virtual age, and there's actually a lot of tools provided by left-wing organizations, progressive organizations. It's actually kind of crazy. Like, you look at like progressives; they're a very small minority in like the scape of politics, and who has the money and who has power and everything. But if you look at like actual grassroots organizing tools, it's like dominated by progressives. Like that industry is just dominated. So like Mobilize is a great site. There's definitely that it's basically just a big event page for different events near your area. Swing Left, Indivisible, they have like different local groups if you want to join those local groups. The DSA is kind of a coin toss on whether that group's going to be good or not.
I heard there's a lot of variety on whether or not they're going to actually be anything you want to be involved in, right?
Yes. So like the DSA, like there could be a really good org like their local DSA. It could be either a very good org that does a lot of work. It could be a org that maybe has good ideals, but all they do is book club all day. And then there could be one that's like, we love Russia, down with Ukraine or something. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of variety. So that's kind of a coin toss. But there's still a lot of like good local groups out there. Just make sure you do your research on them. But yeah, like you don't even have to join a local group. Swing Left, Indivisible, Mobilize all have different event pages that campaigns can put on there. So, if you want to like look in for like electoral work and events near you, you can definitely do that, and you can sign up for any. We actually have our own Mobilize pages. We'll link that later.
Oh, please. Yeah, if you want any for me to show my audience anything, yes, please link it, and I'll make sure to give it to them.
Yeah, when it comes to the governance side of things, or just getting involved in volunteer work that's not necessarily electoral, go on your town or city's website. Sorry if the website looks like it comes from the Stone Age, because a lot of them look like that. Like a lot of these town websites do not look so good, but they'll usually have a plethora of stuff in there, whether it be joining a certain committee. Like a lot of the committees, like Board of Health, depends on the city and town, but there's a bunch of like committees, Veterans Affairs and stuff like that, where you're not elected to them. Like all you have to do is just volunteer, and like you don't even have to have all that much experience depending on the committee, and you can get appointed to it. Like there's a lot of these like boards that like towns and cities have that you could join that have a bunch of empty positions. If you are looking into running for office, then starting on local level is also good. During my organizing of PV, we noticed doing a lot of research that there's these towns that have like 100 town meeting positions, like basically who are the people that are at the town meetings proposing stuff, and like they'll have like just positions just for the town meetings, like not even counting if they have selectmen or whatever, and there'll be a bunch of these positions that are just open. Mm-hmm. That like the actual like elected body is only like half full. Mm-hmm. And if you were to run for one of these seats, you just win because you'd be unopposed. Which kind of made me angry, the fact that the Democratic Party isn't doing that they aren't pushing for more people to run locally, because a lot of these seats are just give-me's for them.
Incredibly easy to run, take control, and have that control to start to move. Because a big problem with government work is that it takes a long time. Our government is kind of specifically made for things to take a long time. Quick change a lot of the times can be great, But quick change in the wrong hands can lead a country to go from something that has some problems to a country that's full of problems or even non-existent, right? So I would imagine that'd be the framework for that you would be imagining that. But yeah, so that's actually, those are all really great points. I really appreciate you for that. I wanted to get a little into so you started with just organizing, being in non-government organizations like these progressive organizations, Swing Left, Indivisible, Mobilize, Progressive Victory, all these types of things, right?
Yep.
But it's a big leap to go from just a volunteer to a public servant. Those are two big things. Being an activist and being a politician, those are quite different, even though they can kind of stem from the same sort of ideologies and wants to make the world a better place. What made you make that jump from a volunteer? Because I don't think they pay you. They didn't really pay you or anything, right? It's not like you can walk away. Yeah, there's no real math. I mean, obviously you're responsible of like the things that's going on, but at the end of the day, you could just not show up again and they'll just refill the seat with somebody else. It's just, it's put together with the kindness of people's hearts. But being a politician, you don't really do things a lot of the times out of the kindness of your heart. You serve the public.
Except for me.
Yes, absolutely, right. But you have more obligations than serving human beings than it is for being just a politician or for being a non-government organizer, an activist, right? So what made you make that jump from being an activist to a politician and a public servant, and what problems have you seen so far doing that?
So yeah, I mean, this was actually quite a big decision for me that I made in such a short amount of time. I didn't really make the decision to run. I didn't make the decision to run until like mid-July.
Pretty recent.
And yeah, it's pretty recent. And a lot of people that do run end up like thinking like a year in advance. I decided to run like 2 weeks before nomination papers were out. So, we had to get everything together, a website, a committee for to accept donations, setting up our event pages, getting signatures to get on the ballot, and then getting flyers, signs, a bunch of other like endorsements. We had to do all that we've been doing all that from mid-July to now. And we didn't really even start most of that until beginning of August when I actually pulled papers. So a very short amount of time to do a lot. So yeah, that was a big decision. The reason why is that I ran is that there's a lot of issues going on in Randolph that just go unaddressed. And currently, the town council for Randolph is very corporate minded. We don't want to do too much to rock the boat because we partner with certain real estate companies to come in to run our apartment complexes, and who cares if they mistreat their tenants, because we don't want to make them angry because we're partnered with them. Stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I feel like if I'm involved in politics, and I always wanted to get more involved in the local level, I might as well run. But yeah, that's the main I guess I would say faults, or not the main faults, the main hurdles right now have been, since I am running with pretty much no name recognition beforehand in my local area.
You really are just
and
a guy.
And the fact that I'm running against people that are on the town council that are already established and are already incumbent town councilors. That's a big hurdle, which is always going to be a big hurdle if you're a young person running. And especially the fact that a lot people on the town council have a lot more money than I do. A lot of them have a lot more money than I do. They loan themselves money to their committees. I don't do that. All the money that I'm getting is from individual contributions.
Yeah, that's honestly an incredible thing, because in a lot of these small
Yeah.
races, a little bit of money goes a long way. A lot of people talk about how like corporate donations may not mean that much. Maybe on a federal level, they may not, like just small amounts of money here or there, but two, three, four, 5,000, $10,000 to a local campaign, especially if it's something like a city council, can take you
Yeah.
from someone who nobody knows and nobody was going to vote for to somebody who could even be winning the race. Mainly simply because you're in everybody's face all the time, and they may not
Yes.
even recognize the other names on the ballot. I know I'm guilty of it. I'm just a normal person. I've gone to my local elections, focusing mostly on the federal. This has happened, especially the first time I voted, because I'm only 24 now. That and not recognizing any name on the rest of the ballot, and being like, well, look, can I like scramble to figure out anything about these about these people real quick before I sign a checkbox, right? So I think that's honestly really incredible. And can you tell us a little bit of why you believe that you do a better job than the people who are incumbent running, and how your city council necessarily works? I wasn't able to find too much information on specifically how it works, because there are many at-large titles to the people who are incumbent in city council.
So in Randolph, the town council has 9 councilors. 4 of them are district-wide, so they run in their different districts, and only people in that district vote. And then 5 of them are at large, so the whole town votes for 5 of them. Now they're all on the same ballot, so it's top 5 win. I think there's 9 people running right now for at large, including me, and the top 5 win. Those top and all the 5 at-large councilors are running for re-election. So I actually have to beat an incumbent to get into the top 5, which I think I have a great shot at actually doing. Mainly because a lot of these incumbents on the town council don't actively campaign. They kind of just try to go off name recognition alone, and they just try to go off like the fact that they're already in that spot. And I don't think that's going to work when you have a young person running that is talking to people basically every day. There's a heat wave in Massachusetts. It actually, because of the humidity, it felt like 102 degrees yesterday, and I went door knocking yesterday. I don't think any other campaign's doing that during a heat wave. So that's something that I've been doing. We have we have more grassroots support. We have volunteers from Progressive Victory and other orgs we're working with that are coming out to help us, that are signing up for our phone banks and everything. And the other town councilors just don't have that. They have more money than us, but they don't have that level of support. So that's why I think we have a great shot in regards to that. And yes, if we have to get top 5 to win. And voters get to vote up to 5 candidates.
Oh, that's incredible. That's pretty good. Yes. I can't lie. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Super interesting. Thank you so much for all of this. But I would like to get a little bit more, since we're getting a little bit closer to it, I'd like to get a little bit more into your campaign specifically.
Yep.
So I was reading through your issues page on your website. I have it up for everybody in chat at the moment. And this is andrewforcouncil.com/issues. And I find it incredibly interesting because I was genuinely shocked. Your issues page is massive.
Oh, yeah.
It is huge, which you don't see very often, because a lot of times when you go to a politician's issues page for things that you want to do, it's typically like, make life better. I like a better life. And that would be better. Bad things are bad and good things are good. There's nothing on here that says make crime illegal. And I find it incredibly interesting and just incredibly refreshing that not only do you have things that you believe are things that you believe on here, but you also have the reasons for why you believe them and the factual data to back it up on why you believe it's correct. So what made you want to write such an incredibly detailed issues page? And do you and also I think you may put it wrap this into it, but what makes you different than the people you're running against?
Yes. First of all, I can't stop laughing at the person who just said in your Twitch chat, "Water is too woke for me."
There's nothing like that in there. I find it very, very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so I grew a great resentment for candidate campaign websites, especially working with PV and having to do so much research on all these different random candidates. Yeah, I mean, I'd already done a lot of research to cover people on stream. I would cover like random races locally on stream as well. But that's always big one criticism for me for a lot of cans is that one, their websites look like shit, and two, their platforms are either super vague. Some of them don't even have a platform page, and a lot of them like are just not specific enough. So what I wanted to do was make a platform page that got into specifics, that kind of stacked all this information, but I also didn't want to make it too dense for the average person to read, which is why I broke it up into sections of more simple bullet points and then more specifics for whoever wants it, like studies and stuff like that. I know no one's going to read them, but it's more of like a
I read them.
It is actually backed by something. You read every study.
Yes, obviously. Every single one, methodology. Okay. Yeah. I emailed every single researcher. Yes. Of course. Yeah. Listen, we do good work here.
Yeah, of course.
I also found it incredibly interesting and very nice that you even highlighted very important things that you really want people to focus in on to kind of break things up a bit. Because me personally, my ADHD, when I look at a wall of text, it just
too much.
It blurs. Everything just blurs. It's terrible, but I feel like this is very legible and readable, and I can break down everything, and I found it incredibly refreshing to see because I saw recently there's this Texas politician, well, he's attempting to be a politician, who went like little mini viral, and the second he got any amount of eyes on him, people started to dig through his issues page or very little amount of issues that he had on his page, and he instantly deleted everything, so he no longer has an issues page.
Yeah, despite living in Massachusetts, I actually got texted by from his campaign like 2 hours ago.
Really?
For like asking for a donation.
Hey, listen, you got to dig into any pocket you can. It's a hard world out there as a local politician, right?
So obviously he's being pushed by
someone
Texas
or
Democrats.
something. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a little bit about also what do you believe makes you different than the people that you're running against? I know you're younger. You have more grassroots organization. You seem to care more about the integrity so far of your campaign, in my personal opinion, seeing as your issues page is very robust and dense, and you seem to talk about a lot of very local issues to your area. You focus on small dollar donations, and you don't put a lot of money into your campaign specifically. You worry about other people who want to support you because you run for the people. You would imagine that you're a public servant at the end of the day. You should serve the public, right? So what do you believe that the politicians, your political opponents at the moment, are doing wrong that you feel like you could be doing better, and what separates you from them?
Sure. So let me get into a few of the biggest issues in my platform, and I'll tie that into what the current town council is doing. Because I think one way to measure how good of a job they're doing is depending on whether things are actually getting better. So I guess we can start with housing. I think housing is probably one of my biggest. Housing might be the biggest thing for me in regards to this campaign, because Randolph is especially bad in regards to housing. So Randolph has a higher eviction rate than 97% of towns and cities in Massachusetts post-pandemic. And a lot of this is a fact for much of the apartments, for many of the apartments in Randolph, because a lot of the single family homes in Randolph are also rented out. Typically from people who don't live in Randolph. They're rented out to Randolph residents. And there's a lot of really unethical business practices in regards to that. So I want to make a big point in this, because it's a very big universal issue when I talk to voters, is trash management in regards to the rented complexes and rented houses is very bad, but it's especially bad in the big apartment complexes. So our big apartment complexes in Randolph are owned by very wealthy corporations. So Rosemont Square is one of the big apartment complexes in Randolph, and that's owned by Waterton Management. On my website, I say that they are owned. I said that they're worth $7 billion. New estimates actually show $10 to $11 billion. But either way, they're very wealthy. Now, despite their vast amounts of wealth, there are huge issues in regards to insects, mold, rats. There's reports of holes in windows, overflooding of trash. The management is rude and unresponsive. There's claims of discrimination based on race and income. Pretty bad. And specifically in regards to trash management, they don't actually really receive any punishment. So the dumpsters are rarely taken out, which leads to these rat problems and insect problems that are a huge issue in these apartment complexes. And they don't face many consequences, and the town council isn't really speaking up about it. In fact, when the town council does speak up about it, sometimes it's kind of implicitly implying it's the tenant's fault. So if you want to know what they're actually receiving in regards to punishments, we have to first go into the investigation. So the three major apartment complexes, Rosemont, Woodview, Highland House, these are the three major apartment complexes. There was over 40 investigations into them just in the second half of 2022 alone. And it usually goes up nowhere. It usually goes nowhere. It'll go to court, maybe die there. It doesn't go anywhere. And they'll be fined, but very low amounts. So Rosemont Square will get fined, the $11 billion company will get fined $100 per violation for their sanitary violations. There are numerous amounts of sanitary violations. It's so bad that there were 4 units deemed uninhabitable for human beings.
7?
So there was 4.
4.
Yeah, there was 4. Yeah, there were 4 units that were deemed not fit for human habitation.
That doesn't seem like something a unit made for human habitation should be doing.
Exactly. And they'll get fined as low as $100 for those violations, which is nothing. Actually, they probably save money not taking out their trash and not taking care of their apartments and just taking the fines. They probably save money by doing that. In response to all this, the town council response was basically like, this isn't really too out of the ordinary. It's kind of like that was a good thing. Like this isn't too out of the ordinary based on the amount of people that live in this apartment complex, despite the fact that a union was created because of it, despite that there's protests at the front step of the town hall, despite the fact that there's so many complaints based on a variety of different things that are coming to the town at these apartment complexes. They're like, well, it's bad at other places, so this isn't really much of a concern. It's not out of the ordinary. Like, not realizing that looks bad in the whole town, and that doesn't make the severity of what's happening in these apartment complexes any lower. So. And then also, there's a big sentiment from town leadership that the corporate landlords and the tenants have to work together, like it's some kind of partnership, which it's not. This is not a partnership. They own the place that they live at. They own the roof above their head, and they don't take care of it. That's not a partnership. That's exploitative. So the mindset coming from the town leaders is not correct at all, and it's only been getting worse. Local news has covered it, and it's only been getting worse year after year. And they still also, there's nothing that came of the fact that Rosemont Square, the management there, was trying to bust tenant unions. They're trying to use intimidation tactics to stop tenants from unionizing. They actually sent a cease and desist letter to one of the main organizers trying to claim that she was vandalizing property and breaking into apartments, which doesn't make sense because she's disabled and can barely walk, but okay. And then they rescinded the letter saying that they sent it by accident. So I don't know how you send that. Yeah, I don't know how you said that by accident, but yeah, a lot of intimidation tactics going on there.
Or were they just writing it
So
themselves? It's just like one of those notes that you like
there's
write out for what
accidentally,
you
yeah.
actually think and then supposed to burn it, but they actually press send.
Yeah, exactly. It's oops,
Whoopsie.
oops. I don't know how that happened,
You know how you
but
whoopsie someone's housing.
yeah. So what
Go
we
ahead.
do in regards to that is one, we make it that the fines are progressive, like a graduated fine system that is based on income and repeated offenses. So these $1 million companies and these $1 billion companies that are in Randolph that own housing, they should pay a higher base amount compared to small time landlords, and then we should increase that by whatever percentage every time they repeat an offense in a given time period, because then it'll actually affect their profit margin, and then they'll actually care and take care of their tenants, or hopefully they will at least create an incentive to do that. Another thing that we should do is create a local sanitary code. So Randolph right now relies on the Massachusetts state code. We should create a local sanitary code that abides by the Massachusetts one, but it's even stricter. I want our housing environments to be like a milestone in achievement. I want other towns and cities to look at that as like we are like the gold standard for how we treat our tenants, how we take care of our properties. I want us to be like the gold standard, basically, and I want to have the uh, the best sanitary code in the state in regards to tenant rights. So yeah, that's on housing. That would be the difference between me and other town councilors. So the fact that I actually have a platform to fix these things, while the town council is kind of like putting it off to the side, kicking it down the road.
So okay, one thing I would like to ask, in listening to your description of how you feel like the town council at the moment and the incumbents have been treating this issue, I would feel like you would say something stronger than just kicking it down the road. Would you believe that the current council is complicit in the degradation of the housing that residents are experiencing? And also, do you believe that they put much care into the suffering that current people who are housed, unhoused, and people who are renting from these large corporations, and even smaller landlords who are abusing the system are doing? Do you think they care that much?
I don't want to put a blanket statement on all of them, but I would say that most of the council clearly doesn't care enough, because nothing is actually being done about it. There was talks of having a graduated fine system, but it was only going to be based on repeated offenses, not income, and then nothing actually came of it. They never actually did it. Despite the fact that there's been so much of a push for things to change in regards to the trash management for these apartment complexes and for treatment, is a pretty universal issue that's come up over the past few years. So I would say, yeah, they're complicit to a degree, of course, considering the fact that it is their job to hold these companies accountable, and they're just not doing their job.
Okay. Could I ask, what do you believe makes them do that? Do you believe that there is any sort of monetary interest that they would have in not following through on this, or do you believe there's something else at play? And you can wrap this into all issues that you see in your issues page and in your area.
Yes.
In Randolph.
So I would say one. I don't know if this is specific. I don't know if this would track for specifically housing, but there are members on the town council that do own businesses that do vote in ways to limit competition in the industries they have their businesses in. And this wouldn't apply to housing specifically, but that does apply to other areas in the town policy wise. But for housing, I think there's a regard of not wanting there's an ideological aspect to it, of just being that's pushed by the right of being against tenant rights, but also there is an aspect of, I think that the town is scared to take any measure regarding housing, period, because it's such a hot topic in Randolph. So like you look at like what residents in Randolph will say, a lot of it is like NIMBY sentiment. So
Can you
it will
explain
go
what NIMBY
from,
means?
yes, it means not in my backyard, which basically means you, not all of them, some of them will say that they are for affordable housing or for housing projects, but it will never be in their area. They'll always be against housing projects in their area. There's definitely a NIMBY resident and sentiment in Randolph, like there are in many suburbs, of course. It's not unique in that way. And I think that leads to officials not wanting to get, kind of wanting to stay away from housing since it's such a top issue in Randolph. They just, they don't want to risk taking any measures that they see as unpopular among any residents, or try to risk like going down any kind of housing policy. But yeah, I would also say it's mainly because the town has to partner with these corporations. So like when these businesses come in, like if a real estate company comes in, or there's a apartment complex management company that wants to come in, and they want to either build or take a property, they have to go through the town council. They have to go get a permit. They have to get permission from the town council. And often there is a relationship built there between the incumbent town councilors and the management. So I don't know for sure if there is a financial incentive there. I'm not sure, but it's definitely possible. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. I want to talk a little bit about some other issues that you have on your platform as well. I didn't want right. So yeah. One moment. I would like to talk a little bit about drinking water, because that sounds, from what I've read, it is very interesting and a bit unique to your area. Sorry. Before we do that, one last thing on housing, and then I want to move into drinking water. You're going to be a politician, and so you're going to need votes. Incredible, right?
Yes.
Stick with me. I get it.
Revolutionary, yeah.
Right. That we talk about big things on this program.
Yeah.
You are going to, more likely than not, to get a top 5 spot. You may need some of those votes from people who may be against or have great suspicion of and or may be wary of more affordable housing, and some of the measures that you want to take in regards to housing, especially against these corporations that the city is partnered with, in a reasonable way, because some things it's very hard, I would imagine, to be able to come to an agreement with. Like, is it okay to have rats in people's homes or not okay to have rats in people's homes? That's much more difficult to find a middle ground. Like, is it okay to have some rats in their homes, right? How do you believe you can assuage some of the fears, doubts, anxieties that some people may have, that whose votes that you may want or need to get into office, about things like affordable housing and about some of the measures that you want to take around housing?
Yeah, so I would say that in regards to that, I think that there's a big problem with the fact that some people don't realize that if you just go to voters and talk to them, there's already been voters I've talked to that don't agree with me on everything. If you just talk to voters, because I'm going out there and door knocking myself as well, and you have a conversation with them, especially in a nonpartisan race, on a local level where they can vote up to 5 candidates, even if they come out disagreeing with you, there's actually a good chance they'll vote for you anyways. Because a lot of people will vote for you just based on your history in the town. So like the house I live in, my family got in 1906, and my family's been in the town since the 1800s. That's a big thing that a lot of voters like. The fact that I'm young has been a big thing. The fact that I'm young and also have some political experience is also a big thing. Even outside of housing, there's a lot of selling points there that a lot of voters like, even if they don't agree with me on this specific thing. And there's also a level of honesty and the fact that I believe in what I'm saying that they like. But in regards to housing specifically, I would say that you just have to talk to them about the issue, hear out their concerns, and give your point of view and everything. Just talk to them honestly. Like, don't go to voters and use all these big buzzwords or try to use platitudes. Just talk to them like a normal human being. And even at the end of the day, if they don't agree with you on that issue, they still may vote for you because they believe in what you're saying. Maybe not like as in they agree with you, but they believe that you believe it.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly interesting. Thank you so much. Can we talk a little bit about drinking water? What's the problem with drinking water in your town? And how do you plan to fix it?
The water is bad and stupid. But that's the short version. But the long version, yeah, I know. But the long version is the fact that there's a lot of distrust of drinking water in Randolph. Randolph's always had drinking water issues. Current reports show that drinking water quality is fine, but there's a lot of people scared based on other factors. The fact that they turn on their faucet and like the water's brown or something, you know, like it's and that happens too much in Randolph.
I do not like chocolate flavored water straight out the tap. It sounds worrying.
Yes. Mass drinking water in general can be sketchy as hell. Yeah, exactly. So, going to more specifics, a lot of these reports from the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, found there's a lot of high threat land use is what they call them, and the water supply protection area, which is a small area around the water treatment plants and the reservoirs that you need to keep protected. You can't have like manufacturing or different buildings there that may infect the water or contaminate the water. You want to make sure that it is safe, that there's nothing around the water protection area that could contaminate it. And Randolph's water protection area, there's gas stations, there's photo processors, there's hazardous material storage, there's hazardous waste generators, there's there's manure storage, livestock operations, a bunch of stuff that are
manure
in
storage?
The water protection area. Huh?
Manure storage?
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure I got that right.
And that's something that was found in the last year's drinking water report. A drinking water report, by the way, that most residents didn't receive in the mail. We're supposed to send them out to all residents, but we just didn't, which leads into transparency being a big issue regarding our drinking water, which is probably the biggest issue regarding drinking water, because at least as of right now, the water quality is found to be fine, not contaminated. But there's a lot of people who are scared because the town's not very transparent in regards to all these things. One of them is sodium. There's a lot of sodium in our drinking water. There's about 3 times the amount. There's 3 times the amount above what is considered the guideline. So the guideline by the Department of Environmental Protection is 20 milligrams per liter. We have over 69 milligrams per liter, which for the normal, for the average person, that's fine. That's not going to affect them in any way. But if you have a very low to low sodium restricted diet, that can be pretty bad. That can lead to, that can be pretty bad. That can lead to high blood pressure, kidney failure, a bunch of other things that are not nice. Yeah, exactly.
They could put you on dialysis by just drinking the local water. I know personally, me and my family, high blood pressure runs in the family. I couldn't possibly imagine. I even had to take my own dad to the doctor because his blood pressure was dangerously high, and he wasn't even safe to drive. It was a scary time. I can't even imagine if our own water was doing that to us. It sounds absolutely abysmal and something that should be addressed immediately. But I would imagine that you would say that it hasn't been. What is your plan to ameliorate that problem?
So it's semi being addressed. So I would say that the water quality issues are being addressed, or at least they're taking a good first step. So there's a new water treatment plant in production that should be completed in 2025. Basically, Randolph's part of a 3-town deal. 3 towns are part of this water treatment plant. It will have filtration for many different chemicals that we currently don't account for or filtrate. So that will help. That's a good first step in the right. That's a good step in the right direction. And I do support the creation of that. It's already underway. That's not something I can really affect. So the main thing is maintaining it. So flushing our pipes. You're supposed to the town is supposed to flush the pipes at least once a year. There was a point in time where they went 4 years without doing it. Which basically means flushing the pipes is cleaning out the pipes of sediment and dirt and a bunch of other things. Which is why when they ever do flush the pipes, the water's brown or whatever color it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
but it's it sucks to see just because there's been a few containments in the water, but for the most part, the reports have found the water to be safe. But no one's gonna trust drinking it. I don't drink the tap water because why would I? I mean, the town's not transparent about it. They withhold information about it. So the main thing is transparency. So we need to have disclaimers on our website about the sodium level of our water as long as it's still above the guidelines. I think anything that violates the guidelines right now, whether it's hazardous in health or not, should at least be disclaimed on our website. The only way you can find it is a water report on a website that has tens of thousands of documents on it. You have to search for it. I mean, literally, in the search bar. It's not you have to search for it. That's the only way you can look at it. So we have to mail water reports, make sure they're easy to understand for the average person. Let's mail water reports to every resident. Let's utilize text alerts. We should be utilizing text alerts for more things, like when the town election is happening. You should be texting people the day before or the day of, telling them that it's town election day. We should be utilizing things like that to reach more people, but especially with water, if there's any emergencies or anything, we should be utilizing that more. And we should increase the amount of monitoring we're doing. Water quality can change pretty heavily in a short amount of time. And that's not going to be reflected by a water report that comes out every few months or annually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My friend, you're gay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
That's
correct?
true. That's true.
On your issues page, you talk about LGBTQ plus issues. Could you dive into a little bit more about your experience and what you've been seeing as you've said, and I believe accurately described, a wave of LGBTQ plus hate? Where do you believe it's coming from? And how do you plan to empower, maintain protections for, expand, and or make that your community feel safe in this time of great strife?
Yeah, so with Randolph, we have come a long way, but yeah, there is a wave of bigotry regarding that's kind of resurged in the U.S. It's not as bad in Massachusetts, and for obvious reasons, not as bad in Massachusetts, but it's still noticeable. I think that we need to have Randolph be more involved in the LGBT community and Pride Month, stuff like that. I have that on my website, being involved in Pride Month. We don't really have any Pride events, maybe small ones here and there, but no parades or events or anything. We should be involved more, and that could sway attitudes and in the community. It could make residents feel more accepted, I also brought up the fact that if you have, it'll bring tourists and that brings money to the town as well. So that doesn't hurt. But the main focus would be
We
making
love
sure
gay money.
that exactly, but making sure that people feel accepted in the community. That's the best that I can do on the town council when it comes to LGBT rights. But yeah, I'll be definitely a strong advocate for LGBT rights in the council.
Amazing. Incredible. Can we touch a little bit on education? You believe education is underfunded
Yes.
in your town. Can you talk a little
Yes.
bit about that? Maybe because you've lived there all your life. Is that correct? Or you've
No, I
lived
haven't
there?
lived here all my life. So my family has been here since the 1800s. I
Did you go to
grew
school
up
in
in
the
a
town?
small. No, I
Okay.
grew up in a small town, Holbrook, which is right next to Randolph. And I went to those schools, and we moved back. We moved back here to Randolph to this house. This is basically my grandma lived here, and then we moved in here in 2016, and before that, my dad also grew up here, and he actually lives in the room he's in is the room he grew up in. So yeah, we have a long history in the town, but yeah, they had moved shortly before I was born, and then we
Okay.
came back here in 2016. But I will say that I've seen how the schools are in Randolph, and they are definitely falling behind neighboring towns in their education systems.
What problems have you heard from constituents about the problems in education, and what have you observed?
I would say that the main issues are well, we are falling behind academically, but I would say the main issues, especially where at the start, is the fact that these schools are falling apart. So it's pretty bad. There's ceilings. The ceiling panels are falling off. There's been multiple incidents of pipes bursting in the school bathrooms. About half the school bathrooms are just closed. So when students have to go to the bathroom in their 3-minute intervals between class, the average wait time is like 15 to 20 minutes to use the bathroom. That's how long the wait lines are because so many of the bathrooms are closed. And we aren't maintaining our schools properly, despite half the town budget going to the schools, about $50 million going to the schools. But they're completely falling apart. The classes are oversized. There's too many kids in each class. Teachers can't pay an adequate amount of time to each student, which is especially bad when so many of the students in the Randolph schools are high needs. A lot of them don't speak English. I think about a third, and maybe a fifth or third, something like that. And then a majority are not English speaking first, so they don't speak English fluently. So that's especially bad when we can't pay as much attention to those students who are going to need more attention. So that hurts us academically. That hurts us in preparing kids for when they grow up, preparing them in different subjects. They're less likely to go to college, more likely to drop out. They get, that means crime increases. They're less likely to get higher paying jobs. That's less tax revenue for the towns, which means less tax revenue for the schools. It's a cycle. If you have poor education, literally almost every major problem we have gets worse. And it's a cycle and because they get worse, we have less revenue to actually fund our schools. So you have to start off and take a loss by funding schools, because in the long term, it will be a great benefit to society. So yeah, funding and where they're going, I think we need more auditing of where funds are going. The principal for the middle school left last year, like quietly left, and has recently been jammed up in legal trouble for. Yeah, he did quiet quitting, and then recently they were jammed up in Boston because they started to work in Boston schools, and they were jammed up legally for taking funds and misusing them. So I mean, were they doing that here as well? I don't know, because we don't do enough auditing, and we don't publicly release all that much information.
Incredible. There's also something on here that I haven't heard you mention yet. On your website, you personally believe in free school lunch. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Fortunately, but unfortunately for my campaign, I can't really use that as a point anymore. But very, very fortunately, because the Massachusetts state budget just included free school lunch and breakfast for every student.
Oh, well.
So that's no longer a local issue for Randolph anymore.
Can't run on it anymore, but it's good for problems to no longer be problems anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
so you do support that, right?
Yeah. Yes, of course I support it. But yeah, the state is going to be mandating that starting in 2024.
Okay, great. Sounds amazing. One last thing that I just want to look to make sure if there's anything that we didn't really touch on. Would you like to touch on transportation just for a moment?
Yes. Transportation is another big one. So
yes.
There's a petition going around in Randolph, and it was accepted by the town council, and it was for a shuttle bus. So to have a fare-free bus service in Randolph that goes between the apartment complexes and then goes to other towns to train stations, and basically to act as like a central point, like a hub, to go to many other different transportation networks and important places that people go to.
If you have any questions for him, write it in chat.
So that was the petition. It got accepted by the town council. And the petition basically states that there needs to be a feasibility study done to find the best way to fund it, the best way to implement it, because there's no concrete plan yet. And they have to submit that feasibility study by June of 2024. And then the town council will vote on whether they're going to implement the bus service. So there's not full information out on it yet because the feasibility study isn't done yet. So we have to wait. But I would be on the town council by the time it comes out, and I would be on the town council by the time we have to vote on it. I do support the shuttle bus. I do support having fare-free buses in Randolph. It would help a lot. It saves people money, some people thousands of dollars, for people who no longer want to use a car, because right now it's necessary to use a car, depending on where you are in Randolph. Where I am specifically, it may not be necessary just because we are near a business district, but most people in Randolph, it is necessary to have a car, and that costs thousands of dollars to not only get a car, but also to repair, maintenance, gas. It's a bunch of money, and you save a lot of money. A lot of people will save money by using public transportation. It increases economic mobility because people can go to jobs that they weren't able to reach before. People are able to have easier ways to be transported to different businesses and spend more on goods and services that leads to more tax revenue for the town. Traffic improves because there's there's fewer cars on the road, which means less deaths on the road, less injuries on the road, less accidents. It saves people money on gas because there's less traffic, less idling, and obviously it benefits the environment from fewer emissions with fewer cars on the roads. So yeah, that's why I support the shuttle bus. It would help a lot in regards to traffic, economic mobility, saving people money, and I think it's a very good idea for Randolph. And I do support them being fare-free as well.
Great. Also, walkability. In my neck of the woods, in my town, walkability is a problem. Now, for me personally, I live about 2 miles from my big road where most of our food, services, and things are. You would think 2 miles. That's not that far. I could get 2 miles. You know, if I really needed to, I could get there on my feet. I could walk on the sidewalk. Oh, wait, there is none. I actually bought a bike because I would love to be able to ride my bike to the grocery store and back. I can't. There is a road that has a 60 mile per hour speed limit in between me and that and like basically the middle of the town, and I don't want to get hit by a lifted F-150 who's texting and driving on the side of the road because there is no sidewalk, there is no rails, there's no protected bike trail or anything that I can do to get there. I have to have a car. If I want to leave my house, it costs money, either in gas or in maintenance or insurance in my car, or anything bad can happen to me. I obviously could be hit. There's problems. Do your constituents feel, have you heard that your constituents have similar issues? Have you noticed similar issues? Because walkability is on your issues page.
Yes. So Randolph's a little better in walkability than most suburbs, but there's definitely issues. So there are studies on different routes, like Route 28, for example, that show I think there's about a half of mile on that route without a sidewalk. So there's stuff like that where those gaps definitely need to be filled with sidewalks. We need to have more walking paths, bike racks, bike trails. I want people to be able to walk to have a bus stop near them. I want people to walk to any necessary facilities. I support. I mentioned on the website that I support the 15-minute rule, which is basically part of it's a idea in town and urban planning that
Want to build a 15-minute city?
yeah, and then it's an idea in planning that if you, no matter where you are in the town or city, you can walk to basic necessities, basic like facilities within 15 minutes. So hospital, like a medical center, convenience store to get groceries, stuff like that. I do support that because I do not believe that I do not believe that there's at least a big chunk of Randolph that does not fit under that rule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate to be in a part of Randolph that does, but much of Randolph doesn't. Much of Randolph, I think it's about half of Randolph, is over a mile away from the nearest bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We have very limited bus service here.
You really do hate. I mean, that's a big thing in a lot of places. Like
Yes.
I said, in my neighborhood, we don't even have completed sidewalks. I would imagine that's the same for your area as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but it's been absolutely great talking to you.
Thank you.
I would like to say, is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we go? And I asked you a couple of audience questions.
Yeah, the fact that it's so hot in here, we're doing it's a heat wave right now, and I have lights blaring at me as well.
Ooh.
It's like an oven. It's a very important part of the campaign.
Yeah. When it comes to running for public office,
yeah.
I imagine you had a lot of lights on you.
Like, damn, it's so hot. I don't know, like what happened. It was completely fine like a few days ago.
Oh, completely. I remember it was like earlier today. I was in the sun. I was having a great time. It was like 70 degrees. Now it's up to like 80. Feels like 85. You can't catch a break.
Yeah, but it's like it's September in New England. It shouldn't be this hot, and it's like 90 degrees for the past few days.
Oof.
Like it's like 94, 95.
Sucks to be you guys. I'm in Kentucky.
Exactly.
Apparently, it's getting wetter here over time, and not drier.
Yeah.
Which, but we do have flooding, so that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Water isn't all life giving. Sometimes it takes. The water giveth, and the water taketh away. But go ahead.
Yeah. I like to share my events page and my donation link. But yeah, I'll definitely accept audience questions.
Sure, great, no problem. And your donation link, it is through Act Blue, is that right?
Yes.
You're with Act Blue to donate Andrew Pemberton, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Great, I'll share it with chat right now, and I'll also share your website as well. AP, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's a nice logo. How'd you get that?
Thank you. Made it myself.
Oh, you do graphic design. Multi-talented politician. That's incredible. You don't do just one thing.
I also do 3D animation.
Oh, and you're not from Harvard. You're not one of them Harvard elites.
No. But yeah. Also, there's the Help the Campaign section that has a section for our events. So, there's probably not many people watching that are in the area, but we have virtual events. We have a virtual phone banking happening this Sunday. We're doing it every Sunday. So it's being hosted by PV. So if you want to help us out in regards to calling voters, we'll have training and everything. We're using a software. You don't even need to use your phone. You can just use your computer to call voters. So it's a virtual. Yeah, it's very easy. So if you want to give it a try, that'd be great. It would help us a lot. We're betting on getting volunteer engagement and doubling down on that. And we're also betting on making up the gap fundraising wise, because a lot of these people in the town council have a lot more money than us and are able to basically put in thousands of dollars of their personal funds into the campaign, which is not money we have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One figure I would say, like, if you want to know how much your donations help, $5 is enough to call 125 voters. because it's 4 cents per dial.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
no matter what you give, if
big.
it's a small amount, if it's a large amount, it can matter.
Yeah, it's very big. So like even if it's a small amount, that helps so much, because we need to, we have to double down on just grassroots outreach, everything like that, if we want to win.
Absolutely, that's very important. Can I ask? I had somebody ask, have you come across people not taking you seriously due to your age? Because I would imagine you're the youngest, if not one of the youngest people running.
Yeah, so I haven't talked to someone that's directly brought up like you're too young, but I can definitely tell there's a couple people that just based on how they act towards me think, oh, he's young, so he's not going to know all that much. I can catch him with like a gotcha or something, especially on social media. Which, by the way, we do have social media links. They're all linked on the website if you want to go check them out. But yeah, that's definitely a recurring theme with some people who don't support the campaign is, oh, we're not going to treat you with like all that much respect as a candidate because you're so young. And they also assume because I'm young, I don't have any political experience, which isn't true. I do. And I don't take that personally. It's going to happen. It's something I expected. And there's far more, there's many more people that are excited that I'm young and I'm running. It doesn't just help with young people. It's a bunch of like old people. Some of my strongest supporters are like 70, and they're like, oh, I'm so happy that there's young blood running. Like I'm so happy that there's, new people in the political space locally. I think it helps with many voters, the fact that I'm young and that I'm running, and that I would actually be the youngest town councilor in the town's history.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Also, is it, I know you have a lot of experience, but is this your first time running for public office?
Yes. There is definitely a difference between, there's definitely a difference between organizing and being a candidate, of course. That's why you see there's a lot of activists who run that don't make great candidates. That's totally true. Because they do require some different skill sets. And I think I've adapted to that pretty well, but definitely they're not the same. So there's still, a lot to learn in regards to that. But is it intimidating? A little bit sometimes. A lot of the time it doesn't, I guess it doesn't register with me that I'm running. But yeah, like that like doesn't actually like sit in with like, oh, I'm running for office right now. Like that doesn't like I'm doing everything I can, but maybe I haven't really had enough time to sit down and think about it. For how far I've come politically and for how long I've done this and how young I am. But yeah, it can be intimidating at times, of course. But just when I started doing political organizing and volunteering, that was intimidating as well. And some of those skills do transfer to being a candidate. Not all of them, but some do, and I think that's helped me a lot.
Incredible. Do you believe that people should have political experience before running for office? I know legally it's not required at all, but do you think that's something that is not only helpful but necessary?
It depends. It depends on what office, I think. If it's for a local office, I don't think it's necessary. There's many people who run that don't have any political experience beforehand. I think as far as you have an understanding of what the office is, what local governance is, what it's like I think having an understanding of what you're able to do in that position and what you want to do, that's enough. As long as you do your research and everything, and you're passionate and you care about what you believe in, that's all you need. If you are running for higher offices, then it's definitely preferred, of course. But yeah, I mean, everyone starts somewhere, and I wouldn't say that it's absolutely necessary for you to have experience, but of course it's a bonus.
So true. And I think we can grab one more before I let you go. Um, so we talked a decent amount about housing. Housing prices. Do you have any ideas or thoughts to give on the price of housing in your area, and and what that means, and if it's too high, how to reduce it?
Yeah. So with housing prices, they're high, especially the higher in mass than most of the country. I think we're definitely on the higher end of states, cost of living wise. Um, and Randolph, yeah, the housing prices have increased, of course, with everywhere else in the country, essentially. And the best ways to handle that is freeing up market rate housing. So I know a lot of people, say we'll just build more housing, which is true. That is true to an extent. Like building more housing will just decrease housing prices by increasing the supply, of course. But it also matters what type of housing you're building, right? So I would say that building right now the town has built low income housing, which is great, but they've kind of just stopped there and like haven't gone further. Which I don't think that helps all that much, because all that does is just segregate the housing based on income. um, and it doesn't actually, it's not in the same market as market rate housing or normal housing. So it's not really doing all that much to affect housing prices. It's alleviating the concerns of homelessness and economic despair of poorer residents. Great, but we also have to go forward and help middle class families and lower middle class families that may not qualify for that housing as well. The best way we do that is make sure that wealthier residents and ordinary people are not going towards the exact same housing. So right now, it's just the market rate housing. We can decrease the price of market rate housing without really building all that much more market rate housing. We can build low income housing to alleviate the economic woes of poorer residents, while also building some luxury housing so wealthier residents can move out of market rate housing and go towards wealthier housing. Because right now, it's wealthier residents and then poorer residents that are vying for the exact same housing, and then wealthier residents just keep bidding up the price higher, and that's why they always win, because they have more money. So making sure that they're not they're not vying for the same housing in the same market, that's going to be important. Also, I do support more public housing, of course.
Okay.
And multifamily housing. I do want to have more multifamily housing, so we're not using all this land on single family housing.
Mm-hmm. I want to imagine you may be sympathetic or support mixed use areas as well, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Pembington, running for city council at large in Massachusetts, in Randolph, Massachusetts, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Just making sure I got the name right. Last thing I want to do is say the wrong name. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you.
I
make
really
sure to make sure to donate if you can, and make sure to go to our website. You can go to our Help the Campaign page. We have Mobilize links. You also go on mobilize.us, put in Andrew Pemberton. There's our event pages right there. So if you want to show up to our phone bank events, I think I'll just put the event in the Twitch chat. If you want to put that in your site chat, you can. Mm-hmm. There's the phone bank link. So if you want to sign up and call voters for us, that's greatly appreciated. And donate as well, so we can actually pay for the calls.
Yep, absolutely. Donation, anything would help, small or large, whatever you have. No problem. Well, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate you for coming on, and I wish you well in your campaign endeavors. Let us know, and remember me when you're famous, okay, buddy?
Okay.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
What a nice guy. Come here. Oh, hi. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it. Thank you, Boo.